The door that was never supposed to open the hallway was cold. Not because of temperature, but because it had been abandoned for years. Commander Jace. Keller's boots echoed in the dust-covered corridor of the old prison ship Goliath. It was scheduled to be scrapped tomorrow. He was just doing a final systems check. No one had lived here in over 40 years, or so they thought. His scanner beeped. Unstable energy reading detected. Source: Cell X13. The words flashed in red. JACE frowned. Cell X13. That section was sealed before the war even ended. He tapped his comm, but it was dead. Strange, even stranger. His scanner was getting interference like something didn't want to be found. He stepped forward. The lights above flickered weakly. Pipes hissed. The air smelled metallic. Old, forgotten. Then he saw it, a thick black door with rusted edges. On it, faded in red paint. X13, do not open under any circumstances. He hesitated. The logical part of his brain told him to walk away. Leave it sealed. It was probably a broken stasis unit or failed system. Nothing important. But his gut twisted. Something was behind that door. He reached into his pouch and pulled out a manual override key. Just one look, he muttered. He inserted the key. Twisted a hand, the door groaned like a dying beast. Steam hissed from the sides. The seal broke with a clunk, and the door slowly opened, revealing darkness and silence. He turned on his flashlight, and his breath caught in his throat. A girl, alien, young, maybe late teens by human standards. Slender arms wrapped around her knees, her back against the wall. Her skin was a soft blue with glowing lines running like veins under her flesh. Her hair was silver white, tangled and long. Falling over her face, she wasn't dead. She blinked at the light. Then, slowly, she lifted her head. "Are you the same?" she whispered. Her voice was dry, cracked. "Are you like them?" Jace took a careful step forward. "No, I don't know who they are, but I'm not here to hurt you." She stared at him, blinking slowly like a frightened animal. Her wrists were bound in old restraints, connected to glowing metal cuffs. Her ankles, too. There were old marks, bruises, scars. A lifetime of silence and pain. He dropped to one knee, kept the light low. "What's your name?" he asked, gently. She blinked again. "I don't. Remember?" His chest tightened. "How long have you been here?" She looked down. "I stopped counting after the stars disappeared." He didn't fully understand what she meant, but her words felt heavy, like truth coated in pain. The girl flinched as he reached for her cuffs. "It's okay," he said softly. "Let me help." The cuffs had no release, only a biometric lock. He scanned them with his wrist pad. Subject 7, a classified threat. Species, redacted. Status, do not release. What the hell? Jace muttered. Before he could process it, she whispered again. "They said I was broken, useless, so they left me here." A chill went down his spine. He looked at her. "Really?" Looked. She wasn't just some alien prisoner. She was a secret, a cover-up. A forgotten mistake the galaxy didn't want to remember. He couldn't leave her here. He tapped into the emergency unlock command. It took 3 tries and an override hack, but finally click. The cuffs released. Her arms fell limply. She didn't move. "I've got you," he said, moving forward. But just as he reached her, her hand suddenly gripped his wrist. Not hard. Not to attack, but as if testing if he was real. Her fingers were cold. So cold, then she said something strange. In a language he'd never heard. A single word. Akale. The moment she spoke it, his wristband sparked. A small light shot out tand formed a glowing mark on his skin. "What was that?" he gasped, pulling his arm back. She stared at it. Then at him. "You're marked now," she said softly. "You'll never be safe again." Jace held her gently as she leaned against him, weak and cold. Her body was trembling. Not from fear, but from exhaustion and years of silence. He had to get her out. The prison's AI was still offline in this forgotten sector. But it could reactivate any second, and if it scanned her, if it saw she was from Cell X-13, they'd both be marked for deletion. Jace whispered, "Can you walk?" The alien girl shook her head slowly. Too weak. He didn't hesitate. He scooped her into his arms. She was light, far too light, like she hadn't eaten in weeks, maybe months, maybe years. As he stepped out of the cell, the hallway lights flickered again, brighter this time. System reboot in progress. Unauthorized movement detected. Jace swore under his breath. Too late. He picked up the pace, running through the empty corridor. She clung to his chest, eyes barely open. "Are you human?" she asked quietly. "Yes, you smell different than the others," she murmured. "You don't smell like hate." "Ash!" Jace didn't answer. He didn't know what to say to that as he turned a corner. A drone activated behind him, small, round, and glowing red. "Warning, subject escape detected. Identify yourself." Jace pulled out his sidearm, aimed, and shot. The drone sparked and crashed into the floor, still smoking. "Almost there," he whispered. His ship Rust Feather was docked just outside the station's lower deck. A small, fast shuttle patched up, perfect for disappearing. He reached the airlock as the doors opened. He glanced back once. The prison lights blinked wildly behind them. Then the entire hallway went dark, like something was watching and waiting. Inside the ship, he placed her gently on the small medbed. The soft hum of the engines comforted him. He began scanning her vitals. "Name?" he asked softly again. She looked up at him. "Tired?" "I don't know. They deleted it." "Deleted it?" She nodded. "A lie. They said if I didn't remember it, no one else would." The scanner blinked yellow. Her vitals were strange. Not dying, but unstable. Her body chemistry wasn't even in the database. She had no ID, no traceable species, nothing. "Who did this to you?" he asked. "The ones in white, long coats, no faces, just voices." She blinked. "They used to say I was broken. Then they stopped saying anything at all." Jace felt anger rise in his chest. Someone had done this to her. Locked her in a cell. Alone for years, maybe decades. She had no name, no past, no family. Just a word she whispered before collapsing. He glanced at his wrist. The glowing mark she left was still there, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. He scanned it. Language, unknown. Structure, organic code, hybrid. Meaning, possibly a name. Possibly a signal. Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped. Incoming transmission. He looked at the screen. Private bounty alert, level 9 target. Unknown female, blue skin, silver hair. Species, redacted reward, open credit, no restrictions. Dead or alive, his blood ran cold. The bounty had already hit the underground network, and someone, somewhere, wanted her dead. Not rescued, not studied. Why? He whispered. She opened her eyes slowly. "They're afraid of me." "Why?" "Because I don't break." That sentence sat heavy in the room. Jace stood and began prepping the ship for launch. "You can't stay here," he said. "They'll come. I need to hide you." She sat up slightly, gripping the medbed. "I'm not a weapon," she said suddenly. Voice shaking. "I don't want to hurt anyone. I never did." "I believe you." She looked at him carefully. "Why?" "Because," Jace said, "you had the chance to kill me." "You didn't." She lowered her head. Neither did you. The silence stretched between them. Then she said, "They told me my kind was gone, that I was the last. Do you think that's true?" Jace didn't know. But he looked at the glowing mark on his arm and somehow felt that this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. "We'll find out," he said. Together. As the ship lifted off and disappeared into deep space, the old prison behind them went completely dark like it had finally exhaled its last secret. But far across the stars, ships were already moving. Eyes were watching. And hunters were preparing, because what Jace had just saved was never meant to survive. The stars outside Rustfeather blurred as the ship entered warp. Inside, silence hung between Jace and the girl, a soft and heavy like air after a storm. She sat curled in the corner of the small cabin, wrapped in a thermal blanket. Her silver hair fell over her shoulders, strands glowing faintly in the low lights. Jace watched her from the pilot's seat, hands resting on the controls but eyes focused only on her. "You should rest," he said gently. "I don't sleep," she whispered. "Why not?" "Because last time I did, I woke up in chains." That answer punched the air from his lungs. He had no words to follow. He simply turned back to the console and checked the trajectory heading for the edge of civilized space, where trackers would have trouble following. "Do you remember anything about where you're from?" he asked after a long pause. She was quiet for a while. Then, slowly, a field with blue flowers and tall towers that hummed like songbirds. She closed her eyes. But that might have been a dream. Jace frowned. "Dreams come from somewhere." She looked at him. "Do yours?" He hesitated. "I don't dream much anymore." She gave a small, sad smile. "Then we're the same." Suddenly, the ship jolted. Alarms flashed. Warning. Incoming ship. Fast approach. Weapons hot. Jace cursed under his breath and pulled the ship out of warp. Outside, a dark, sleek hunter-class vessel locked onto them. Red lights blinked under its dray. Red lights blinked under its black, hole-like eyes. A voice buzzed through the comms. "Surrender the target. We have orders. You won't survive a second warning." He muted the channel and turned to her. "They found us faster than I thought." Her hands clenched the blanket. "It's my scent. They used to say they could smell me across systems, that I wasn't clean." "You're not dirty," Jace snapped. "You're hunted. There's a difference." The enemy ship charged weapons. Jace grabbed the controls. "Hang on." Rustfeather dived into an asteroid field ahead. Lasers flew past, exploding on rocks. Jace dodged, weaved, barely missed. Collision by inches. The girl held on to the chair's edge, eyes wide but silent. "You scared?" Jace yelled. "No," she said softly. "I'm used to being chased." He grinned through the tension. "Well, you've never been chased with me flying." He flipped the ship through a tight spin and slipped through a collapsing tunnel of space debris. The hunter ship tried to follow only to slam into a rogue rock. An explosion lit up the stars behind them. Jace finally let out a breath and wiped sweat from his brow. "We're good," he said, voice shaking. But she wasn't looking at him. Her eyes were fixed on the stars, or something far beyond them. "You're bleeding?" she said. Jace looked down. His left side was soaked. A shard from the dashboard had cut through his armor during the dive. "It's nothing." She stood, gently approached and placed her glowing hands over the wound. Jace flinched. Wait, but a warmth spread across his ribs. The bleeding slowed, then stopped. The pain faded. He stared at her in shock. "What did you do?" "I remembered." "Something," she whispered. "Just for a second, my mother's hands used to glow like this." He touched the healed skin in disbelief. "I don't know what I am," she said. But I don't want anyone else to suffer because of me. You're not causing suffering, he said. They are, whoever they are. She nodded slowly, her eyes sad. They erased my past, but I feel something inside me. Like it's not gone, just locked. He walked to the console, pulled up an ancient star chart. There's a planet, he said. Dead one. No colony, no data. But it's near the sector where you were found. She leaned over his shoulder, eyes scanning the map. That symbol, she whispered. She pointed to a tiny, star-like icon marked in alien script. You recognize it? He asked. She nodded slowly. I think. That's where I'm from. Jace locked the coordinates. It's a long shot, he said. But it's mine, she replied. He smiled faintly. Then we go. But just before the jump, a new alert flashed on the screen. Bounty level updated. Priority 1. Reason, potential threat to galactic memory structure, destruction. Authorized. Jace looked at her. She didn't seem surprised. They won't stop, she whispered. No, Jace said. But neither will we. Rustfeather vanished into the black, flying toward a dead world. And buried truths that refused to stay buried. Asterisk, the dead planet had no name. No landing zones, no history in the galactic registry. It was just a ball of gray dust floating in a quiet corner of space. Long-forgotten Dacha C didn't like it. I've landed on war zones that felt safer than this, he muttered, guiding Rustfeather through the thin atmosphere beside him. The alien girl, still unnamed, stood silent, staring out the window. It's here, she said quietly. Something's here. Jace glanced at her. How can you be sure? Because I can feel it. It's humming beneath my skin. Jace landed the ship in a cracked valley filled with strange black stones, each shaped like a square tooth jutting from the sand. The sky was pale gray, and no wind blew, just silence. He armed himself with a small energy rifle. Stay close. She stepped beside him, barefoot again, ignoring the cold ground like it didn't bother her. As they walked, something strange happened. The stones began to glow. Faint blue light pulsed under the ground. In rhythm with her steps, Jace froze. That's not normal. She didn't stop. They remember me. What? She reached the center of the valley. A large, circular stone platform lay buried under sand. She dropped to her knees and placed both hands on the surface. Then she began to hum. The sound was soft, low, and ancient. Not a melody, more like a memory being sung aloud. The tone echoed through the air like it had been waiting years to be heard. Jace watched in awe as the platform lit up beneath her. Lines of blue fire cracked across the surface, forming symbols, glyphs. In a language older than anything he knew. Then, the ground began to shift. The platform sank, slowly, revealing stairs made of dark crystal. The girl stood and looked at him. It's calling us. Jace raised his weapon slightly. Or it's a trap. She tilted her head. For who? Jace hesitated, then lowered the gun. Let's find out. They stepped into the underground hall, where the air felt warmer. Alive somehow, walls were lined with glass-like panels, each filled with mist. Inside, some were shadows forms that looked like people sleeping. Children, elders, families. Stasis pods, Jace whispered. The girl moved to one of them and touched the glass. My people, they're still here. Jace stared. You're not the last. She smiled faintly. They told me I was. They lied. In the center of the chamber stood a tall pillar covered in carvings. She walked to it, tracing the shapes. I know this story. It's mine. Jace watched as she began speaking words from the glyphs, one by one. The air buzzed with energy. A Deep voice boomed through the hall, not from speakers, but from the walls themselves. Genetic code recognized. Welcome, Seer. Jace froze. Seer, she turned to him slowly. That was my role. I remember now. I was supposed to protect the memory of my people. Our history, our voice. Suddenly, the stasis pods began to blink, one by one. Lights turned green. Systems came online, but so did something else. Rust. Feathers comes crackled back at the surface. Warning, signal detected. You are trespassing on locked bioheritage ground. This is a Class 1 galactic breach. Prepare for cleansing. Jace's blood ran cold. They know we're here. The girl grabbed his hand. Then we finish what we started. She returned to the center and placed both hands on the pillar. The floor began to vibrate. Symbols lit up around them. I'm waking them, she said. Are you sure that's safe? She smiled, a real smile this time. Safer than leaving them asleep forever. Above them, the sky roared. Ships were coming, bounty hunters, Union agents. Maybe worse. But Jace didn't care anymore. He stood beside her, raised his weapon, and faced the rising doorway behind them. If they were coming, they'd have to go through him first. And this time, she wasn't alone. The storm started in the sky above the dead planet, but it wasn't wind or rain. It was fire and metal. 4 sleek Union dropships broke through the upper atmosphere, engines roaring, weapons glowing red. Behind them, a larger cruiser hovered, like a predator waiting for the kill. Inside the underground chamber, the alien girl, now remembered by the ancient system as Seer, stood with both hands on the glowing pillar. Her face calm but focused. They're here, she said. Jace checked. The energy rifles charge. Full. I know, he replied. And they're not here to talk. Above ground, the ship's comms buzzed again. This is Union Command. Surrender the relic and the biological weapon, or you will be erased. Final warning. Relic. Biological weapon. That's all she was. To them, Jaya turned off the comms. We're not giving them anything. The Seer opened her eyes. You're choosing to stand against your own kind. He looked at her. I'm not standing against my kind. I'm standing for what's right. Her lips trembled for a second, then steadied. I'm glad it was you who opened that cell. Outside, the dropships landed. Soldiers in white and silver armor fanned out quickly, scanners raised, weapons ready. Their visors glowed red. No. Faces, no emotion. Just orders. A captain spoke into a communicator, confirming the sight. Organic code verified. Target is alive. Extraction by force. But as they moved toward the valley entrance, the black stones began to rise from the ground, floating. Humming down, then they turned, and pointed energy sparked between them like invisible strings pulling tight. The soldiers paused too late. A shock wave of blue light exploded from the ground, knocking the first wave off their feet. Some screamed as their armor fried and powered down from the shadows of the valley. Others began to rise. Old stasis pods had cracked open beneath the sand, forgotten, buried long ago. Inside them, her people had waited, and now awakened by the Seer's voice. They stepped forward, weak but alive. Children, elders, warriors, eyes glowing with the same ancient light. Jace stood at the mouth of the underground entrance, rifle aimed. One of the alien warriors, the tallest, with spiral markings across his arms, stepped beside him and nodded. No words were exchanged. The line was drawn below. The Seer walked out into the valley, slow and steady, her long white hair flowing behind her. Blue veins glowed under her skin. With growing strength, the Union soldiers froze. The captain raised his hand. Do not let her speak. Too late. She opened her mouth and sang. The sound wasn't loud. It wasn't even music. It was memory. Thousands of years of pain, of burning cities, of children crying, of a people once known for peace, hunted like beasts. Her voice carried it all. Jacek felt his heart twist, his knees weaken. Even the Union. Soldiers wavered. One dropped his weapon. Another backed away, whispering, "She's not a threat. She's a mirror." But the captain growled, "Weapons free." Blasters roared. Jace fired first. His bolt hit a soldier in the shoulder, sending him crashing back. The alien warriors beside him charged forward, weapons built from stone and light. They didn't aim too killingly to stop. The seer walked calmly through the chaos, still singing. When the last dropship tried to lift off, the ancient stones around the valley shattered at midair with a pulse of energy. And then, silence, smoke. Hung in the sky, broken armor littered the valley. Union survivors had fled, retreating to the cruiser in orbit. Jace limped to the seer's side, a burn across his arm. "You okay?" She nodded slowly, tears falling from her glowing eyes. "You?" "Saved them," he said. "No," she whispered. "You did." He chuckled softly, despite the pain. "That's a first." She turned to him, her voice trembling. "For years I was locked in a cell, told I was worthless. A mistake. But you're kind to your species, you gave me something no one else did." He blinked. "What's that?" "A choice." And with that word, the underground chamber fully lit up. The stasis pods glowed. Her people began to walk into the light, into life. For the first time in 1,000 years. Hope had a voice again, but far above, on the Union cruiser. A dark figure watched the valley through cold, mechanical eyes. "This changes everything," it said. The message was sent across space. The seer has returned, and the human stands with her. Prepare for war. The valley had changed. Where once there had been only sand and silence, now stood dozens of alien survivors, young and old. Warriors and caretakers all, awakened by the seer's voice. The wind returned to the dead planet. Flowers bloomed from cracks in the stone, glowing softly in the starlight. But the peace wouldn't last. JSC knew it. He stood at the edge of the valley, scanning the sky with his rifle slung across his chest. His body was still sore from the battle, but his eyes were sharp. He had seen too many wars not to expect the next strike. Beside him, one of the alien elders sat on a stone, watching the seer as she moved among her people, gently touching hands, whispering names, awakening memories buried for centuries. "You've given her hope," the elder said in a deep, quiet voice. Jace glanced at him. "She gave it to herself." "No," the elder replied. "She gave us our past. You gave her the future." Jace didn't know how to answer that. Down in the hollow, the seer was glowing brighter each day. Her eyes held the light of stars, and the glyphs on her arms pulsed like a living map. She was remembering who she was, piece by piece. But not everything was beautiful. Some memories came like fire. One night, she woke screaming. Jace rushed to her side, only to find her curled in a corner, tears falling from her cheeks. The others didn't approach too afraid, or maybe too respectful. "I saw it," she whispered when Jace knelt beside her. "The day they took us. The ships, the light, the burning cities." She grabbed his arm. "They didn't just lock me away. They hunted all of us. Whole planets, children, mothers. Wiped out, and the Union helped." Jace felt his gut twist. Why? Because we could remember things they wanted forgotten. We were living archives, and they wanted silence. Pulled her into a soft hug. They were afraid of the truth. She nodded. "Then let's give it to them." The next day, she stood before her people and spoke. I am the seer. I was stolen from you. But I am not broken, and neither are you. She raised her hand. Light flowed from her palm, projecting ancient images into the sky memories stored. In her blood, in her voice, cities floating in the air, families laughing, a society built on knowledge, peace, and music. The people gasped. Some cried, "We are not ghosts," she said. "We are still here." Then she turned to Jace. "But we are not safe." He stepped forward. "I've sent a message to Earth, to my people. Will they come?" she asked. Jac nodded. "They will. But they won't bring weapons. They'll bring truth and cameras." She blinked. "Cameras." He smiled. "If the Union wants to hide this, we're going to show the whole galaxy instead." The seer tilted her head. "Then let's wake the last ones." Deep beneath the valley was one final chamber. Only the seer could open it as she sang the final note of the memory hymn. A massive stone slab split apart, revealing a glowing orb of crystal. Inside it, a girl. She was younger, maybe 10, curled like a sleeping bird, hair the same color as the seer's. Jace stared. "She looks like you." "She's my sister," the seer whispered, falling to her knees. "But I thought I forgot," she said, voice breaking. "I forgot her face, but she never forgot mine." The chamber scanned her voice print. The crystal opened. The child gasped and opened her eyes. Her first word was, "Sister." The seer held her tight, crying, "You're home." Later, as the stars turned above the valley, Jace stood alone again, watching a transmission come through. It was from Earth Ann. Old General appeared on the screen. "Keller, you've kicked a nest of snakes. Union Command is furious. But the footage you sent, it's spreading fast." Jace nodded. "Good." The general leaned closer. "We're sending backup. Science teams, journalists, even peace envoys. But Keller, yeah, protect that girl. She might be the most important voice in the galaxy." Jace smiled, glancing back at the seer as she held her sister beneath the glowing flowers. "I know." The stars were watching. Every screen in the galaxy on ships, space stations, outposts, even colonies on the edge was tuned into one thing, the voice of a girl. The galaxy once threw away. She stood on the same valley floor where she'd once been hunted. Now, a soft breeze blew through her silver hair. Her sister stood by her side, holding her hand, and behind them stood 100 survivors, no longer hidden in darkness. Cameras hovered in the air, quietly recording. Jay stood off to the side, arms folded. He wore a clean jacket, now no armor, no rank insignia. It's just a man who had once opened the wrong door and found everything. The seer stepped forward. She began to speak not with song, but with truth. "I was locked in a cell before I knew what freedom meant. They erased my name, my memories, even my language." Her voice trembled slightly. "They told me I was dangerous, broken, that my people had no place in this galaxy anymore." She looked at the cameras. They lied. Her hand reached out, and a projection of memories shimmered in the sky above them. Not battles, not pain, but beauty. Gardens that floated on air. Star bridges built from crystal. Laughter echoing in alien languages. "We were never a threat," she said. "We were record keepers, singers of history. We remembered things others wanted forgotten." The crowd watching on screens across the galaxy held their breath. Then she said, "And now I give those memories back. Not in anger, not in hate, but in hope." She stepped back and silence followed. But not for long. On Earth, millions clapped. On Mars, workers paused their shift and wiped tears. In distant sectors, even hardened mercenaries turned away from the screen. Shame that the galaxy had tried to bury her. Now she was the loudest voice in it. That night, Jace sat on the ramp of Rustfeather, staring at the stars. The seer sat beside him, her sister sleeping on her shoulder. "You ever wonder why it was me who found you?" Jace asked. She smiled. "Not anymore." "Why not?" "Because you weren't just looking for answers. You were looking for something worth saving." He chuckled. "Guess I found it." She looked at him. "I want to offer you something." He raised an eyebrow. "A medal? Royal title?" Shook her head. "A home. With us. You're part of this now. You're in our songs." He looked down, quiet for a moment, then said softly, "I've never really had a place to belong. But if you're offering, I am." He nodded. "Then I accept." They sat in peaceful silence until a ship appeared in orbit. Not Union, not military. It was old, ancient, carved with symbols that matched the ones in the valley. The seer stood up, eyes wide. "That's a seed ship? A what?" "One of the last ships my people sent into space before the purge. It survived." The ship descended, slow and graceful. When it landed, its doors opened, revealing more survivors. Some elderly, some young. They stepped out with cautious eyes until they saw her. Then they knelt. Seer one whispered, "We thought you were a myth." She stepped forward. "I was, but myths can become truth." The two groups merged. Hugs, tears, laughter filled the night. Jace stood back, quietly watching. He didn't belong to their species, but somehow he belonged. A little girl ran up to him and tugged his sleeve. She looked like the seer's silver hair, glowing eyes. "Are you the human who saved our seer?" she asked. Jace smiled. "I guess I am." She nodded, serious. "Then you're family now." He chuckled. "That's simple, huh?" She took his hand. Simple is good. In the days that followed, everything changed. The Union denied the attack, but the evidence was everywhere. New laws were discussed, old. Secrets were uncovered, but most of all, a new alliance was formed between humans and the Seer's people. It wasn't built on weapons. It was built on memory, on truth, on a single door that should have stayed locked. And the man who opened it anyway.